Sit back, slip on your absorbent undergarments.
Damage 365 Radio with your host Kevin Nasta and John Torrey.
There's only one. It's time to play the game. Time to play the game! It's all about the game, and how you play it, all about control. And if you can take it, all about your debt. And if you can pay it, it's all about pain. And who's gonna make it? I am the game.
Well, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Damage 365 Radio. I am your host, Coach Kev, and once again, I am running solo this week. We have a great show stored for you today, and let's not get behind schedule because it is jam-packed full of awesome. We did a JCW show in Denellen, New Jersey, where we got to meet WWE superstar Matt Spreaker and former WCW, ECW, and WWE, TNA, you name it, he was there, he's done it, Rhino. We got an interview with him, but due to time, we will not be able to play the Rhino interview until next week. But we will have Matt Stryker's interview, along with a quick recap of the JCW action from Denellen, New Jersey. We'll hit a little promo from our friends at Esposito's, and we'll come back later in the show, and we'll have a special guest, former 8-time Women's World Champion, former 4-time Tag Team Champion, April Hunter will be in the house today, and we'll have some questions for her. And I am psyched and ready for that. And let's get right into a little wrestling promo and our tournament.
Yes, sir, we promised you a great main event here tonight.
Nick Andre, the China WrestleMania!
Hulkamania is running wild.
My God, what a run! Entire world is watching.
And we're going to get right into our wrestling tournament, our best of the golden era. And in round one, the round of 64, it was knocking off Don the Rock Morocco. It was Brutus the Barber Beefcake knocking off the one-man gang. So it'll be Andre versus Brutus. And then, I guess some can say an upset, but not in my eyes. It was the Enforcer, Double A, Arn Anderson knocking off the Ultimate Warrior. And it was the Big Boss Man knocking off King Kong Bundy. So it'll be Double A, Arn Anderson against the Big Boss Man. Rikishi knocked off Ron Simmons. Bam! And he will take on the winner of Dynamite Kid and Haku. And it was the Dynamite Kid. And he will be taking on Rikishi in round number 2. Scott Steiner lost to the Undertaker. And he will take on the winner of Jim Powers and Diesel. It was Diesel, and he'll take on the Undertaker in round number 2. Battle of Giants right there, 2 7-footers. It was Mike Rotunda, also known as IRS, knocking off Kerry Von Erich, the Texas Tornado. The Macho Man, Randy Savage, he defeated the Natural, Butch Reed, and it will be IRS, a.k.a. Mike Rotunda, against the Macho Man, Randy Savage, in round number 2. It was Mr. Perfect defeating the Warlord and advancing, and he advances to take on Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man, who knocked off the Asbury Park's Beast of the East, Bam Bam Bigelow. It was Hacksaw Jim Duggan knocking off, no pun intended with the 2x4, Tatanka. And he will take on Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream, who knocked off Tito Santana. So it'll be Dusty Rhodes and Jim Duggan in round number 2. Rick the Model Martel will move on to the second round because he defeated Hillbilly Jim. And Bob Backlund defeated Papa Shango. So Bob Backlund versus Rick Martel. Moving on to the lower half of the bracket, it was Rowdy Roddy Piper defeating Kamala. And it was Tully Blanchard defeating Nikolai Volkov. So Rowdy Roddy Piper versus Tully Blanchard. The Earthquake squashed George the Animal Steel to advance to take on the winner of this match, which I felt was a real upset. It was the Iron Sheik defeating Yokozuna. That is right, folks. The Iron Sheik, Team Shiki, defeats Yokozuna. And he'll take on the Earthquake in round number 2. He'll go from one big man to a guy that's just a tad bit smaller, but not height-wise. It was Mr. America, Tony Atlas, defeating Big John Studd. Another match of monsters. And he will take on Greg the Hammer Valentine, who defeated JYD, the Junkyard Dog. Greg Valentine versus Tony Atlas. It was Jake the Snake Roberts defeating Jim the Anvil Neidhart. Jake Roberts advances to take on Owen Hart, who defeated the Barbarian. Jake Roberts versus Owen Hart, round 2. The Genius, Lanny Poffo, defeated Rick Steiner. So both Steiner brothers are out because Lanny Poffo finished them off. And he'll take on Paul Roma. Paul Roma, who defeated Crush, a.k.a. Bryan Adams. Lanny Poffo versus Paul Roma. It was the Honky Tonk Man defeating Jimmy Superfly Snuka. And in the bottom bracket of that was Bret the Hitman Hart defeating Jesse the Body Ventura. So it's Honky Tonk Man versus Bret the Hitman Hart. Hulk Hogan. Of course he won, but he defeated, it was Rocky Johnson, the father of The Rock. Hulk Hogan moving on, and he will take on the winner of another big match, and some could say it was an upset. It was the ravishing one, Rick Rude defeating Davey Boy Smith. So Hogan versus Rude, a match that's happened before. It was Mr. Wonderful, Paul Orndorff, defeating Hercules. And I would say the biggest upset in the entire first round of the bracket, it was Ricky the Dragon Steamboat defeating the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels. Michaels out in round number 1. It is Ricky the Dragon Steamboat versus Paul Orndorff that completes round number 1's 64-man golden era. Man, what a round 1 that was. Round number 2 looks to be just as great. You can check out this link after our show on our Facebook page at facebook.com/damage365. And I don't know, that was great. I'm kind of caught up in that. But we want to get on to a great interview that I was able to do at the JCW event. It was this past Friday night, the 6th of December, at the Denellen Knights of Columbus in the aforementioned Denellen, New Jersey. Ricky O, who puts on a great promotion, and once again I get to meet a lot of the guys that I met back in Manville in November, and it was good to see that they actually remembered me. I don't know if that's a good thing. Maybe it's the beard, but it was a very good show, and I actually enjoyed it more, the second show, more than the first show. Maybe because I haven't really seen any independent wrestling prior to November. I didn't really have any expectations, but now that I do have expectations, they by far surpassed my expectations in the second show, and JCW has a lot of good things to look forward to in the future. But let's go right into the interview with former WWE star and backroom broadcaster Matt Striker.
Okay, we're here with former WWE star Matt Striker. Welcome to JCW.
Thank you.
So what kind of brings you from a large market like WWE, and then you come to JCW, which I would imagine has to be a humongous adjustment for you. But what do you feel is like the biggest difference between the two?
Well, to the first question is, what brings me here? JCW helped me out
15 years ago when I was just kind of starting along and stuff. So to have the opportunity to come back and give back and say thank you, that's one reason. Second is I like the grassroots movement that's going on in wrestling right now. I think that there's a grassroots movement throughout independent wrestling to forge an alternative. WWE is great and the WWE style is great, but there are other styles and other people out there that deserve to be seen, deserve an opportunity to wrestle. So those are the reasons that I come. As far as the biggest adjustment goes, it's easier. The intimacy lends itself to the emotional connection. To learn how to, and simple things like this happen where someone just walks in and it's organic and it's real, but to learn how to connect with 80,000 people, that's one thing. To learn how to connect with 80 people, that's entirely different. So I feel closer to the fan, and I think that it brings the fan more into my weird passion for wrestling because I'm insane. And that's, if you want to call it an adjustment, I call it a pleasure.
Okay.
Okay.
You've had the pleasure of, I'm going to say pleasure just because I enjoy watching them, to work with guys like Daniel Bryan, CM Punk, Dolph Ziggler, Dean Ambrose, guys like that who kind of started at this level, worked their way up, came from ROH and leagues like that, and eventually got to WWE. So do you feel now that you're watching the future when you're here?
I believe that anyone I meet can become anything they want. This guy could become the next greatest ring announcer ever if he wants to be. So I always assume that everyone I meet is somehow going to repeat themselves in my life as someone great. Except this guy, he's got no chance in the world. So, yeah, I mean, I always say I left WWE with a nice big backpack of knowledge and nonsense, and then when I meet someone, I go, you know what? Backpack's on this side. This might help you, actually. Take that. And then I see them down the road 3 years later. Hey, man, that thing...
So you have no problem teaching and being a coach?
Why should I? Kept manna will stink. It's in the Bible. It means if you keep your own things to yourself, eventually it'll infest you.
Well, you got a lot of people, though. We interviewed Al Snow a couple weeks ago. And, he said that he won't say anything unless someone asks him. Some people are like that. They don't feel like they want to interfere in, the coaching of someone.
And you have to respect that.
Right.
And at the same time, there also is a due diligence for a younger wrestler or an inexperienced wrestler to get up the courage to approach someone. Some people will stand there and go, free stuff. But some of the good stuff, you kind of gotta, and if you never ask and you never hunt. So I think maybe that's what Al may be trying to instill in this next crowd. Have some balls.
No, that makes sense. Now you wrestled for WWE and then you got involved in the backstage announcing, broadcasting type. You had to tone it down a little bit. The adrenaline that when you're wrestling in the ring to just standing next to somebody like me, standing next to you with a microphone.
Well, there's absolutely no adrenaline right now. No, it's just you have to channel your. You can come on, man. It's all real and happening right now. Damage 365. You have to learn to channel your passion. The meter is still going and it's percolating and all this stuff is in here. It's just a question of does it come out this way or does it come out this way? Okay. It's still got to come out. Okay. Captain Manor will stink.
Last question. Who is your biggest influence from any level in this industry?
There's so many. Wrestling-wise, I always give my kudos to William Regal, Arn Anderson, Tommy Dreamer, Johnny Rods, Steve Corino. I'm going to leave names out. I wrestled a guy last week up in Nova Scotia named J.P. Sims that I'm able to learn something from. And then I'm in there wrestling Kurt Angle, and I'm able to take some stuff too. So you got to be smart and see what you can pick.
It's hard not to learn something from Kurt Angle.
Like, cutting people off when they're doing an interview. Like, that's something that,
I learned that from you, actually.
Nice. Touche. Good job.
Well, is there anything you want to promo that upcoming for yourself that you'd like to let the fans know about?
My Twitter is at Matt_Striker_, and my email's on there too if you want to reach out. Just support wrestling. These guys are out there doing it because they love it, and you're there watching it because you chose to watch it. So support it because you never know who the next person is going to make it.
All right. Appreciate your time.
Mega Powers handshake has to be done.
Yeah, I'm freaking out about it.
Considering that Macho Man was my favorite wrestler of all time, I appreciate that. Yeah. Must be the beard. Thank you, Matt. See you, Matt.
And that was Matt Stryker, and that was a great interview. He's a really, really funny guy. Great insight into the business, and an insight that was recent. He was the most recent guy we've actually got a hold of in our couple of interviews that we've had live. He was the most recent guy that's been in WWE, so there's still a lot of things fresh on his mind, and some of the names that he gave to give kudos to that helped him along the way in the industry, there was some big names, and it's always good to see guys who have actually made it to give credit to other guys who have been there before, and it was just to me it was a learning experience for myself. As far as conducting interviews with someone who's so fresh out of WWE, and the fact that he's back in JCW, giving back to where he started, because it was JCW that gave him the shot years ago, and there he is giving back to JCW and giving back to the state of New Jersey and to the fans, and to again rephrase him, it's a big adjustment performing in front of 8,000 people compared to 80 people, and to not make it any different. It's a little bit more of a close atmosphere when you're at the Knights of Columbus compared to Madison Square Garden. Yes, but at the same time you're there to entertain the fans, and I can tell you right now from his match, he definitely entertained the fans, and he put on a good match. He was very humorous in his match, and he made sure that the fans were happy, win or lose, which obviously I didn't think he was going to lose. But we'll get into the recap right now for Jersey Championship Wrestling this past Friday, December 6, 2013, at the Dunellen Knights of Columbus in Dunellen, New Jersey. It was Rhino defeating Cannonball. Matt Stryker was victorious as well. We mentioned that earlier. The Down Boys, the interview we had back in November 8th in Manville, got to talk to them again. Great, great guys. Very young, very, very fresh and raw, but very, very talented, well beyond their age. And I'm looking for big things out of the Down Boys. They work well together. They had great chemistry. They were victorious. As well was Extreme Champ Bandito Jr. as he defeated Frightmare in a mask versus mask match, and they put on a very good show, the two of them. The fact that they added 5 minutes to the time limit, they fought to a draw originally, but it was Bandito pinning Frightmare a couple of seconds after that, and the two of them will battle it out again sometime down the line, because Bandito Jr. requested Frightmare for the rematch. It was JCW World Champ Damian Darling. He defended his title successfully. And also winning on the card was Slayer and Ricky Reyes in his tag team bout. And Ricky Reyes, another great guy, another great interview, great performer. And it's funny talking to these guys. And when you do talk to them, and they go out in their match and they're the heel, and they're being booed and yelled at by the fans, I just sit there and laugh, because I just spoke to this guy, and he's the nicest guy on the planet, and you got all these kids screaming and yelling and abusing the poor guy, but this is what they do, and this is what it's all about. And they do a very good job, as does the entire promotion of JCW and Ricky O, the promoter. They do a really, really good job. They also had an event on Saturday in Parlin, New Jersey. I was not able to go to that, but I heard it was one of their best, if not the best show that they've put on this year. And they have a lot more shows down the road. I'm going to one in late December in Kenilworth, and another one in January. And Damage 365 will be in Atlantic City, New Jersey, this coming Friday into Saturday, to go to the Bazaar show in Tropicana Casino and Resort. And I will I've been invited, so hopefully we can bump into her. Jasmine St. Clair, we have been invited down by her, and I'm going to meet her in person, get a couple of words from her, and hopefully get a word from Gene Snitsky, who will also be down at the show. And on Saturday, after that show, I'm driving straight into Staten Island, New York, to see the Warriors of Wrestling promotion for their 6-month anniversary show. I've been invited to that. So let's see. We're going to expand out. We're going to try another promotion, see what they got to offer, maybe interview some of their wrestlers, some of their champs, and we'll see where that goes. But right now we're going to a commercial break.
Esposito's Pizza and Pasta. Over a decade of excellent dining experience. Dine in, take out, or free delivery. We feature over 25 different types of pizza pies, and also will create anything you want. Our sauces are made fresh daily and use only the freshest ingredients. We also have good old-fashioned style entrees, cooked like your mom used to make. From wraps, calzones, rolls, and pasta specials galore to calamari and soups, all in a cozy atmosphere. Call today or stop on in.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time of the show, we'd like to welcome in our guest interview for the day, April Hunter. April, how are you doing today?
Oh, I can't complain. No one would listen, you know?
Is it snowing by you?
No, I live in Florida. Matter of fact, I have the air conditioning on. It's ridiculous.
Okay, then you can't complain, because it is snowing here.
Well, you know, people say that, but just remember how it was in July where you were and you just kind of got tired of it. That's where I'm in. I'm tired of having the air conditioning on. So, yeah, I'm a little jealous of the snow. People keep sending me pictures. I'm like, shut up.
It looks nice, but it's still wet and it's still cold and it's still a mess once it starts turning into sludge.
It's such a good workout, though.
Yeah, I could do without the shoveling, but thanks. Okay, a couple questions we wanted to ask you. One of the first ones was, how did you go from being a pinup to becoming a WCW female wrestler?
Basically, okay. The transition in there was fitness, I would imagine. I went from doing centerfold work, and I transitioned. I did something weird where I started off my career naked and gradually put all my clothes back on. I think somebody told me I could never do it, and I took that as a personal challenge. So I started doing fitness modeling. In between there, I did a special edition hard bodies issue for Playboy, which Kimberly Page was also in.
Okay.
So WCW saw that, and that's where they kind of saw me, and then sent somebody out to scout me and hired me.
Oh, it's an interesting angle on how to get into wrestling. A lot of people get discovered in gyms and now in the developmental levels or school. You did it, like, I guess somebody was looking at a magazine, saw you, and just decided to give you a call.
Yeah, it was kind of like a diva search without the $250,000, I guess.
Okay. I'm assuming because of the time period that you worked with WCW, you got to work with the likes of Hulk Hogan and Macho Man, Savage, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall.
I worked with mostly the latter NWO guys. Jeff Jarrett,
okay.
Nash and Hall. Those were the main guys I worked with. Scott Steiner, I was one of the basically I worked with Steiner for the most part.
You were an NWO girl?
Yes.
You still have your New World Order shirt?
I probably do somewhere. I had a horrible collection of black wrestling t-shirts somewhere around here. It was like a box full. There was everything from the NWO to the PWO in there, and the BWO. I have all of them.
Oh, boy.
Hey, I'm a meanie supporter, For your Philly peeps.
I read up before anybody who calls in, want to get a little background on them, and I read up that you're a former 8-time female world champion, and a former 4-time tag team champion, and ranked once you were ranked 18th of the top 50 greatest female wrestlers in the world. That's pretty impressive. That's a very impressive resume. As we were advertising all week about you coming on the show, and I think one of my quotes was, I said, somebody this beautiful shouldn't be so dangerous.
Well, my catchphrase was, how could something that looks so, hang on a second, it's been a while since I used it. How could something that looks so good hurt so bad?
It's true. I mean, it's intimidating. I mean, the titles and the ranking and your overall physique. I mean, just to see some of the moves that you were able to do that you really don't see that in modern female wrestling. It's more looking like someone that should be in Baywatch more than in a ring.
Thanks. Well, when I trained at Killer Kowalski's, and when I got there, they basically told me that I was going to be stigmatized as a model unless I worked hard to try and beat that. So, more or less, I took my training very seriously, and then while I was there, WCW and ECW basically folded. I was called back into WCW at one point at the very end to work with Alan Funk, Kiwi, and I declined at that point. And I also had a tryout with WWE at that point, right before. And long story short, right as everything was supposed to come together, McMahon bought out the other companies, and then everything got confusing. They were trying to figure out whose contracts they were keeping, whose they were getting rid of. Everything was lost in the shuffle for like a year at least. It was like, we don't know what's going on. Like, contact us a little bit later. We're sorting things out. So at that point, I just started traveling. The first place I went was England, and I went and basically lived in England for a while because they have a lot of work, or they did at that point. They had a lot of work over there. You would work 5 nights a week, and various, you'd work England, Wales, Scotland. You could fly over to Ireland, fly over to Germany. So I just, I worked nonstop over there.
Okay.
And then I went to Japan and stayed in Japan for a while. From Japan, I went to Mexico, and then Puerto Rico, and then France, and I just worked everywhere. Meanwhile, talent relations in WWE got really weird. They kept bringing people in to talent relations. Once Jim Ross wasn't running it anymore, it seemed like they were bringing in people that had nothing to do with wrestling and had no idea what was going on. So, it was like I was told everything under the moon. It was like, first I was, too tall and too big. I was going to make their male wrestlers look small. And then there was this, and then there was that. And then, I had to send them a resume and give them access to my website. They wanted to make sure to look at exactly what kind of nudes I had and make sure they weren't XXX, like actual porn.
Right.
Because at that point, Mickie James had hired her, and she had done some adult magazines at the same time, too, under the name Alexis Lurie.
Okay. So
they were okay with adult magazines, but they weren't okay with porn. So they were doing thorough background checks, and then, there was always something. So I just sort of,
yeah.
It's weird with wrestling when you don't exactly get a straight answer, you sort of question yourself a lot. And then I finally got a contract offer, and the timing was just so incredibly bad. I mean, it was just so bad that I had to say no. And after that, it seemed like, well, I kind of offended them.
Well, like they didn't offend you prior to that.
That doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
I'm just a spoke on the wheel,
I mean, you literally traveled around the world kicking ass and taking names, and then you come back and you're hoping that all your hard work pays off, and you don't get the call that you think you deserve, and you probably did deserve it, and it always seems to happen is that you get that call when you least expect it, and you're probably not able to do it at the moment. And then you're caught in between. If I say no, I'm probably never going to get offered another chance. If I say yes, it's pretty much going to ruin everything else that's going on.
Yeah, and it was frustrating to me at the time because I was traveling for so long and living in other countries, which was great. I was learning a lot. I mean, you really can't get a better education than traveling. I was learning other languages. I was learning how to deal with other people. I was learning geography. I was learning how to wrestle in a variety of different styles, because what works in Puerto Rico does not work in Japan.
Right.
And I was learning cultures. But it would drive me nuts that I would be on top-rated television shows in these other countries, and I couldn't get on TV in my own country.
Wow.
I was just like, what is wrong with me that everybody wants me as soon as I leave this border? And when I come back here, I can't seem to... And it was really frustrating because you mentioned about these 8-time world champion, and I'm the first female to hold the male tag team titles twice, 2 different places, 2 different big places. So I was wrestling guys, too. And the problem with that is I was in these programs, and once you hold the titles, you're pretty much committed to be on every show. But then these tours would come up, which it was a steadier work with more pay, and I would have to take the tours instead.
Right.
And then I was kind of pissing off the promoters, not intentionally, but you can't hold a title and not show up for several, for a month, 2 months, 3 months at a time to defend them. So they only tolerate it for so long.
You kind of caught between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, the tag team runs were great. It was really frustrating to me for the longest time because I was doing female tag teams, which I picked up in Japan. There was a lot of girls there that worked as singles, and then they would work as tag teams as well. So they had a completely different tag gimmick together, and they would do something 180 degrees different as a singles wrestler. So I watched that. Mima Shimoda was one of the people who was my manager and my opponent while I was there, and she is just amazing. Anyone who knows their Japanese wrestling will know who she is. She's like the female Hulk Hogan of Japan.
Okay. And
beautiful and tall. She's like 5'8", which is a giant over there. That's why she was my opponent. So she did this. Their gimmicks sort of come out with pink and yellow chairs and beat the crap out of people with her tag team partner. And then she had her own thing when she worked singles. So I came back, and there was another female in my class, one other girl, Nikki Rocks. And I said to her, let's do a tag team. I said, we'll do the Killer Babes, Killer Kowalski, and we'll wear purple and white like Walter did, and we'll go out there and kick ass. And it was an awesome idea, except at that point, the promoters did not want to pay 4 girls for one show. So we couldn't get opponents a lot. And then if we did, they weren't really trained. A lot of times we were working with, guys' girlfriends that, had taken a few month classes, and they were throwing them in the ring with us. So
yeah.
I've had some of my worst matches here in the United States because I'm working with girls that you have to just kind of do fluffy stuff like pull your pants down or chase them around the ring or all in the crowd. You can't do a lot with someone who can't bump or can't take your finish or can't take a submission the right way or just can't do much.
Nah, I would think that would be very difficult. You're going to be working out of your element and, putting on a show that you're not, used to doing. Wrestling is wrestling. You want to walk around smacking each other in the ass. That's not wrestling, so...
No. But sometimes it's all you can do in the ring. You just try and make it as entertaining as possible and hope that you can tell a story with it. I remember doing a couple of matches with this girl who was a manager who was one of the promoter's girlfriends, and she was horrific. She couldn't take a bump. She couldn't do anything. She couldn't sell. Nothing. They put her in the ring with me. I'm like, oh, God, what am I supposed to do with this girl? Had to work with her. She was the promoter's girlfriend.
You didn't send her home on a stretcher, right?
Horrible. And half the time, I'm telling you, I've got stories. Half the time, these girls will hurt you. You're trying to work with them. You're trying to do the best you can, and something will go awry, and you'll end up having a broken ankle or a torn knee cartilage from just trying to work around things because you're working with such amateurs who don't know where they're supposed to be in the ring, or they panic because they get lost. You know, I had a girl one time, she forgot her own moves. She panicked. She grabbed my arm. I was down. I was trying to talk to her. She grabbed my arm and dropped her knee full weight on the back of my elbow, and she literally broke my arm because she panicked and didn't know where she was like, oh God, boom, that was it. I had just gotten my shoulder back to where I could lift weights again and get back in the gym literally the week before, and I was out again.
Oh.
She's a freaking idiot. She's an idiot, and this is who I'm in the ring with.
And the thing is, there's actually stories you hear about, you know, guys who've been wrestling in the business for over a decade, and they're notorious for hurting people too. So it's not just the females.
I know. I've seen some sloppy wrestlers on both sides, but quite honestly, I have worked a lot of guys, a lot of girls, and I've gotten the crap beat out of me from the guys. But I'll take getting the crap beat out of me from the guys because they don't want to sell something from me, or they're pissed off they're in the ring with a girl. I'll take that over a sloppy female wrestler who isn't trained, because at least I can handle getting the crap beat out of me. You know, that's fine. At least, you know, you slap me across the face, you give me a black eye, you punch me in the stomach, whatever. I take a hard bump, I'll get over it. You pull my hair really hard, I'll get over it. But if you're in the wrong place at the wrong time and you trip me, or you break my arm, or you rip my knee, I won't get over that.
No, because there's no reason for it. There's no reason for it. I mean, that happens. It's due to sloppiness, and you know, you guys are you're defining your craft, and you're practicing and rehearsing your craft to the point where you're experts. It shouldn't happen. I mean, fluke things happen every now and then. You get flung out of the ring, you land wrong. That's fine, but when you're hurt as a result of someone's negligence, there's just no place for that in wrestling at all.
Yeah, unfortunately, it does happen, though. That's one of the reasons why I got spoiled working, you know, outside of the country, because they train differently in a lot of these places. They take it much more seriously in England and in Germany and in Japan and even in Mexico. As much as I hated working in Mexico because the girls hated working us, they knew what they were doing. You didn't run into the sloppiness like you do here.
Okay.
It was a profession for them, and that was, you know, what they did, and they took pride in their profession. And they got trained well, or they weren't allowed in the ring, whereas here, you have too many marks that should be on the other side of the rail in our rings because you have too many bad trainers trying to make a buck off of people, letting them in the ring, charging them per week to train. Trainers that haven't been anywhere or done anything that have managed to convince people that they, you know, could train them and get them somewhere.
Are you currently doing anything with wrestling anymore?
I am. I work for Shine Wrestling every month. It's an all-women's fed, it's a sister fed of Shimmer Wrestling.
Okay.
And they're doing really well. They do live shows in Tampa, but it's broadcast on iPay-per-view every month also.
Okay.
Usually it's the middle Friday of every month, 9 p.m. Eastern, but the schedule kind of varies, so anyone can look that up at shinewrestling.com, or they can also, I have everything on my site, aprilhunter.com. Just look on the schedule, and it has everything there, too. But I tend to do more Comic Cons now than wrestling. But I am still working occasionally, smarter, not harder.
And there's a Comic Con coming up that I was told you're being involved in, if you'd like to promo that.
Yes, New Jersey Comic Con. That's in Hamilton.
Okay.
I'll be there December 13th through 15th. The guest list is looking pretty amazing. Breaking Bad, Falling Skies, Ernie Hudson from Ghostbusters. The list is amazing. So if anyone is in the Hamilton area, Philly area, Jersey, or just, you know, feels like coming out to see me, just Google that, New Jersey Comic Con, and take a look at all the information there, and I would love to see you. It's Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday.
I totally wish we could get out there. We committed to Bazaar in Atlantic City, on the 13th and the 14th, and I'm supposed to be driving straight from Atlantic City to Staten Island to go see the promotion of Warriors of Wrestling. They're having their 6-year anniversary show, and we got invited to the show.
Oh, nice.
So it was like when I was told that you were going to be there the 13th and the 14th, and I'm like, oh my God, of all the weekends.
Well, you know, it's like, I'll be honest with you, I was trying to sneak home for Christmas in some way, shape, or form sometime in December. So that was part of the reason why I took it, because that's the same exact week Shine Wrestling is running. So I was really disappointed to have to pick one place or the other. But it was just the allure of being able to go home and get the frick away from palm trees for a week and see snow, you know, and just being around my people, you know, my angry Northeast cut you off in their cars, give you the finger people. So I just really want that. Pine trees, not palm trees.
Yeah, I mean, who wants to decorate a palm tree, seriously?
Well, I've done that. It's cute, but it's not, you know, you have to hang seashells off of it. It's not quite the same with, you know, northern ribbons.
I doubt that's the same.
Yep.
Anything else you'd like to promo before we go out?
Let's see. I will be in Atlanta in February at Days of the Dead. Sorry, February. It's like nuclear and nuclear. You can see a lot more of me right now at aprilhunter.com, and I'm also doing a free gallery giveaway. So if you want that, it's a holiday gallery called Cookies and Milk. It's PG. So if you're over 13, if you're over 13, just send me an email on the contact page.
Okay.
It says free Xmas, and you shall have that free gallery. And on Twitter at April Hunter. And I also write a lot. So road stories, wrestling stories, the health tips, fitness tips, all of that. And that's on April Hunter blog.
All right, awesome. I mean, sounds like you're totally involved in a lot of things, keeping yourself busy. And we definitely appreciate your time coming on the show, and I wish you luck at Comic-Con. And I know that those things are a lot of fun, so definitely have a lot of fun. And tell Ernie Hudson for me that I'm very disappointed that there is not going to be a Ghostbusters 3. And we look forward to having you on the show or bumping into you at one of these conventions sometime soon.
Hey, when did they nix Ghostbusters 3? I thought that was in the works.
I heard it was. They said they weren't going to do it. Bill Murray declined, and Rick Moranis declined. So maybe if you could get some inside information, call us back with good news.
I will. I'm going to ask him about that, because I thought it was a go.
I hope so.
Yeah, I know. All these stupid remakes, I'd rather do something like that. I will. I'm going to ask.
All right, awesome.
All right,
well,
have a good one. Thank
you too. Enjoy your air conditioning.
No, enjoy the snow.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye. That was April Hunter, ladies and gentlemen, a great interview, and we'd like to thank her once again for giving us a call in and sharing some of her time with us, as we're getting to the point of the show where we're going to have to get going. At this time, we'd like to thank Ricky O of JCW Wrestling, Jersey Championship Wrestling. You can check them out on Facebook and JerseyChampionshipWrestling.com. We'd like to thank him, as always, for inviting Damage 365 Radio to the shows and for organizing Matt Stryker and Rhino for interviews. Again, next week, ladies and gentlemen, we will have Rhino's interview in full, minus his conversations about Walmart and flossing. That's not wrestling related, but it was humorous. Also, remember, next week, Saturday, Damage 365 visits Atlantic City for Bazaar. We will visit with Jasmine St. Clair and hope to get an interview with Gene Snitsky. Also, that night, Damage 365 will be in Staten Island, New York for the 6th annual celebratory show of Warriors of Wrestling. And we'll recap that entire weekend along with Rhino's interview next week on Damage 365. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to episode number 35. We will see you next week. And remember, help control the nitwit population and have your friends spayed or neutered.
Closing time. Time for